Supergirl, Kara, finally captures the enemy leader, just as she was about to dismantle their program the next second. Her friend wants to save her, but his companion Barry says, "You're not fast enough." So the two of them engage in a race against time. Is this far enough? I think it is. But can Kara still be resurrected? It was an ordinary day. Barry's curse of being late for work was about to strike again. While waiting for his sandwich, he received an urgent call from Alfred. Alfred informed him of an emergency at a Gotham City hospital, which urgently needed the Flash's help. Barry muttered to himself, "Why is it that every time there's trouble, I'm always the first one they think of?" The truth is, the other superheroes in the League each had their own missions. Superman was busy in Central America, rescuing victims of a volcanic eruption. Batman was tracking criminals who had stolen a biological virus. And Wonder Woman was sleeping in, ignoring her ringing phone. With no other choice, the rookie Barry had to take on this heavy responsibility. Seeing the clerk still leisurely making his sandwich, Barry could wait no longer. He rushed into the restroom, quickly changed into the Flash, and sped towards Gotham City Hospital. In just 10 seconds, he crossed immense distances and arrived at his destination. Just as Barry was sarcastically joking that because he's so fast, he's become the Justice League's cleanup guy, Alfred immediately reported that the hospital's foundation was compromised. The instability underground caused a chain reaction. The east wing of the hospital was teetering and could collapse at any moment. As soon as Alfred finished speaking, the entire building began to fall towards Barry. In the top-floor nursery, a female nurse and 8 newborn babies were thrown out of the window by the powerful shockwave, plummeting downwards. Barry immediately activated his speed force, preparing for the rescue. However, at that moment, something dramatic happened. An urgent alarm sounded from his wrist. Because he hadn't eaten breakfast that morning, his speed force energy reserves were low. His superpowers were about to be depleted. In this tense moment, the lives of the nurse and the babies were in immense danger. Barry moved like a bolt of lightning, quickly locking onto a target. He smashed through a vending machine. His first priority was to fill his stomach. After restoring his strength, Barry recklessly charged towards the crisis. His speed force aura manifested once more. At a speed beyond time itself, he saved the helpless little lives in the nick of time. Meanwhile, Ben Affleck, playing Batman, was tracking the Falcone family's foolish son, Zhao Fa. This man had stolen a dangerous virus and was attempting to escape. Batman gave chase relentlessly in his Batmobile. Though obstructed by a tanker truck set ablaze by thugs, he remained unfazed. He spread his wings and flew through the raging fire, locked onto his target with a batarang, and successfully boarded the enemy vehicle. Seeing this, the driver abandoned the truck and fled. Batman and Zhao Fa broke through the guardrail, plummeting towards the waterfront. Although he quickly hooked his batarang onto the bridge, Alfred sent an urgent warning. If the virus fell into the sea, half the citizens of Gotham City would face mortal danger. The rope, unable to support the weight of both of them, was about to snap. Just in the nick of time, a beam of light appeared. Wonder Woman arrived calmly with her own theme music, saving them both. Then, Barry also arrived at the scene. In the confusion, Batman forgot that he still had the lasso of truth tied around his wrist. He admitted he was always arrogant and never thanked anyone. While helping to untie the lasso, Barry accidentally revealed he was still a virgin. Wonder Woman, to this awkward scene, was long accustomed. After completing the rescue, she retracted her lasso, leaving the two of them in embarrassment, and quickly departed. When Barry returned to the coffee shop, the staff had just finished making his sandwich. However, because he was late for work again, he was severely reprimanded at the company. Beneath the heroic suit of the Flash, Barry was actually an ordinary person carrying deep pain. He could never erase the shadow of his childhood. As a child, Barry witnessed his mother's tragic death, and his father was imprisoned for her murder. Although it gave him superhuman powers and started a new chapter for him as a superhero, Barry's inner world remained sensitive and introverted. Even when he showed a humorous side, it was a mask for his lonely heart. In Barry's heart, the regret of not being able to clear his father's name was like a huge stone weighing on his heart, making his life feel stuck on the tragic day he lost his mother. One day, after a call with his father in prison, Barry was lost in deep thought. He recalled the moment his mother died, when, in his desperate running, he accidentally broke the constraints of time and entered a temporal realm. The past unfolded before him like a movie, and he was amazed to find that he could freely enter any point in time. He found Batman. Both of them had similar, painful childhood experiences. Full of excitement, Barry shared his new ability with Batman. He hoped to use this power to save his deceased mother and also erase the painful memory of Batman witnessing the loss of his parents. However, Batman told Barry that trying to change the past is not easy. Every time you go back, even the smallest intervention could trigger a butterfly effect, leading to unbearable consequences. When Barry returned home, he remembered his father had rushed out because his mother forgot to buy a can of tomatoes. This small oversight led to such severe consequences later. The supermarket surveillance footage couldn't prove his innocence because his father was wearing a hat. At this moment, a thought flashed through Barry's mind. Since the problem originated with that can of tomatoes, perhaps he could solve this problem and thus prevent the tragedy from happening. He decided to travel through time, pinpointing the exact moment his mother went to the supermarket to place a can of tomatoes in her shopping cart. He intended to correct the past, but unexpectedly, this small act turned the great wheel of fate. A purple shadow shot straight at Barry, and with one blow, knocked him out of that space-time rift. But it was too late. A new timeline had already begun. A Barry who hadn't lost his mother grew up like countless ordinary children without the baptism of mysterious chemicals and lightning. He was just an ordinary person, as normal as could be. The mysterious purple figure knocked Barry to the day he accidentally became the Flash. In this timeline, the young Barry who didn't lose his mother, if he didn't become the Flash, could cause the original Barry to lose his powers. Barry guided young Barry, using resonance to sneak into the laboratory. However, when young Barry heard he would face a lightning strike experiment, he flatly refused. Faced with young Barry's resistance, Barry tried to explain rationally. But just then, a bolt of lightning struck unexpectedly, hitting them both. When they woke up from unconsciousness, Barry was shocked to find his superpowers had vanished. Having lost his speed force, he couldn't return to his original world. But young Barry beside him didn't understand his predicament. Instead, he was ecstatic about his newly acquired powers, running recklessly through the streets. Because he was so fast, his clothes were burned away by friction. Back at home, Barry shared his experience. He had faced the same embarrassing situation. Therefore, the Flash suit was designed for this very purpose. To ensure young Barry's safety, Barry generously lent him his own suit. With a simple touch of the ring's mechanism, the molecular material inside the suit would rapidly expand, adapting to young Barry's body shape, allowing him to better use this power. As the conversation deepened, Barry gradually realized that the world before him was significantly different from the one he came from. At this critical moment, on all television screens across the globe, the figure of General Zod suddenly appeared. He announced he was searching for a Kryptonian, intending to take them back to Krypton. If he failed to achieve his goal, he would unleash a devastating catastrophe. Barry began to explore the web for this new world's superheroes. But he was surprised to find that Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Cyborg did not exist here. The only possible lead pointed to Batman, Bruce Wayne. So, they came to the luxurious residence of this legendary figure. However, everything before them was desolate. They searched tirelessly inside the mansion but could find no trace of Bruce. Just as they were puzzled, an old man with silver hair suddenly appeared and attacked them. With his superhuman ability, young Barry easily dodged the attack, but Barry was hit, blood spurting from his nose. Viewers familiar with the Batman story will recognize this as the older Batman, Keaton, from the 1989 movie. Although he didn't understand why this world's Bruce was so old, Barry still told him what had happened. Bruce's reply revealed the changing of an era. Gotham City was now the safest city on Earth. People no longer needed his existence. Batman is our military and leader. Bruce refused Barry's plea. Facing this predicament, Barry reluctantly decided to use young Barry's resonance to infiltrate Batman's secret base, hoping to find clues about Superman on the computer. However, the search results showed thousands of people named Kal-El in America. This left him utterly confused. Next, Barry tried to log into the space agency's database to investigate the mysterious meteorite crash in Kansas that year. At this time, young Barry was completely unaware of the danger, instead casually playing around in the Batcave. This led to an argument between them. As Barry was at a loss, his gaze fell on the table on a pen engraved with a name. Inspiration struck. He told Bruce that although Alfred in their world had passed away, in his world, Alfred was still their ally. Although the two worlds were different, some people and things are indeed drawn to each other. Everything Barry wanted to do was to save his own parents. At night, the silver-haired hero Bruce re-entered the Batcave. After his own careful modifications, he now had 7 bat suits. The group traveled to Siberia, targeting the secret base where the Kryptonian was imprisoned. However, after they infiltrated, they were surprised to find that the one imprisoned in the base was not Kal-El, but an extremely weak woman. After rescuing the woman and escaping the underground base, they were surrounded by a fully armed military force. Without his superpowers, Barry was powerless to resist. The situation was critical. Just then, the woman they had rescued appeared like a godsend, defeating the enemy with invincible strength. But she eventually collapsed from exhaustion. Back at Wayne Manor, the woman slowly woke up. Her name was Kara. She was the child of Krypton, Superman's cousin, tasked with the mission of protecting Superman. But for some reason, only her escape pod survived and landed on Earth. Basking in the sunlight, Kara's strength was restored. She spat and shattered a hard stone statue. Despite having such power, Kara seemed indifferent. She chose to come to Earth seeking refuge, but was unfortunately imprisoned by humans, trapped in a sunless predicament. As a stranger from Krypton, Kara did not want to help them save the Earth. She left young Barry and flew into the sky. Barry found Batman pleading with him to help recreate the accident that gave him his superpowers, hoping to regain the Speed Force to fight alongside young Barry against the evil Zod and protect this world. Faced with Barry's request, Batman raised a question. With such power, he could choose any timeline. Why choose to stay here, willingly risking his life? Barry admitted, "Because my beloved mother is here." His original intention for time travel was to save her, to avoid suffering the pain of losing a loved one again. After hearing this, Batman felt a sense of resonance. He too was once a child who had lost his parents, transforming into Batman for revenge and justice, to punish evil and promote good. However, he understood that it was precisely that unfillable pain that shaped who he was now, making him stick to his duties and not lose his way. Without these tragic experiences, he might have long become a debaucherous playboy. Meanwhile, Kara arrived at General Zod's spaceship, just as a fierce battle broke out between him and the humans over failed negotiations. To help Barry regain his superpowers, Batman prepared a device, a kite that could conduct lightning. Ideally, when lightning strikes the kite, the current would be conducted through the metal wire into Barry's body to activate his latent abilities. Barry decided to try it without any protection, unfortunately. His bold move resulted in him being nearly cooked by the lightning. But the awakening of his superpowers did not happen as hoped. Instead, it left him on the brink of death. Barry wanted to try one last desperate time, But Batman discovered the previous conduction system was damaged by the lightning strike and could not be used again. Despair enveloped Barry. He fell into a coma. At this moment, Kara returned to the Batcave, taking the unconscious Barry into the air. In the stormy clouds, Barry faced the wild lightning directly. This time, he was almost cooked well done, his life hanging by a thread. Just when everyone thought he wouldn't survive, miraculously, electricity began to flicker around Barry's body. His scorched wounds began to heal. Meanwhile, young Barry did not give up. He was busy modifying Batman's suit, decorating it with bright red and a lightning pattern, and removing the extra ornaments from the helmet. A bat suit with young Barry's unique style was born. The reason Kara returned was that, when Barry and his companions found her in the underground base, even though she wasn't the person they were looking for, they still rescued her. This made her decide to join them to fight against the evil Zod together. Although Aquaman and Wonder Woman weren't there, the seeds of justice had already sprouted within the team. A brand new super team was already taking shape. The group flew resolutely towards Zod's ship, encountering staunch resistance from Earth's military forces along the way. With her invincible strength, Supergirl shattered an incoming missile with a swift punch. Finally breaking through the blockade, they reached the center of the battlefield. Besides General Zod himself, also present were his second-in-command, Farah, and a giant warrior. Earth's army was powerless against them. Facing a powerful enemy, Barry and young Barry realized their own limited power. So they adjusted their strategy, turning their attention to the enemy's Kryptonian soldiers. Supergirl stepped forward, and from Zod's mouth, she learned key information about her cousin, Superman. As Krypton was on the brink of destruction, Superman's father hid the secret to the planet's rebirth within his son. It was a precious codex containing vital genetic data. He sent the child to Earth in an escape pod. However, Zod intercepted the escape pod, but did not find the codex. The woman before him was the one he was looking for. Hearing Zod admit to killing Kal-El, the fire of revenge ignited in Supergirl's heart. She furiously launched a fierce attack on him. Zod was knocked down, but Supergirl did not stop. She gripped the wreckage of the ship, swinging it like a wild beast, continuing to apply pressure until she trapped Zod in the ship's wreckage. On the battlefield below, Barry and young Barry gained a wealth of combat experience. They continuously innovated, cleverly using new tactics to effectively eliminate large numbers of Kryptonian enemy troops. Batman flew his jet straight towards the enemy mothership, but unexpectedly, the mothership was surrounded by a strong protective shield. Not only did the missiles fail to harm the enemy, they were deflected back, hitting the Batwing. As luck would have it, the escape ejection system was destroyed by the missile. Facing an inescapable fate, Batman decided to risk his own life. He resolutely piloted the burning jet, determined to go down with the mothership, pushing the fiery aircraft towards its target. Meanwhile, Supergirl grabbed Zod's arm, trying to shut down the device controlling the mothership's attack. But the cunning Zod at this moment stabbed her straight through the chest. Zod took a device from Farah's hand and extracted Supergirl's blood. When young Barry found Supergirl, she was already dead. Faced with the sacrifice of his close friend, young Barry ignored Barry's pleas and decided to challenge the laws of time. He resolutely rushed into the Chronoball, traveling back to the moment just before Batman launched his attack. Young Barry reminded him that the mothership had a shield, suggesting he find another target to strike. This time, Batman decided to engage the big guy first. Unexpectedly, despite the barrage of fire, the big guy leaped directly onto Batman's jet and threw him out of the cockpit with one hand. The jet with the big guy on it crashed to the ground. Surprisingly, he stood up from the wreckage unscathed. Batman, in the air, launched a counterattack against the big guy. With his agile skills, Batman planted a bomb on the big guy. Although he succeeded in taking him down, he himself succumbed to his severe injuries and stopped breathing. Meanwhile, young Barry and Supergirl teamed up. He created a tornado trying to support Supergirl against Zod. But their power was still not enough to defeat this powerful foe. Supergirl was defeated in her duel with Zod, her life taken once again. When young Barry found Barry, intending to travel through time again, the big guy who had been defeated stood up once more. They unleashed a combined lightning attack and finally finished him. However, at the moment the big guy exploded, a spike pierced young Barry's arm. Before he could pull it out, Farah's attack followed. Young Barry was amazed to find that this spike could penetrate Farah's armor. He decisively counterattacked, subduing Farah with a series of combos. But despite the sacrifices of his companions, the Batman and Supergirl of every timeline could not escape Zod's clutches. The world seemed to have fallen into an abyss of despair. Looking at the world about to be destroyed, young Barry tried countless times to reverse fate, breaking dimensional boundaries, traveling through the tunnels of time. But the cruel truth told him that some tragedies are unavoidable. He once tried to save his mother, but realized the ruthlessness of fate. No matter how fast he ran, he could not bring back his lost loved one. Some problems ultimately have no solution. Sometimes learning to let go is the right answer. Barry wanted to return to his own timeline, but such a return would inevitably bring about a tragedy. Young Barry's mother would also die. Despite facing a tough choice, young Barry still tried to traverse the convoluted timeline. Barry tried to convince him to give up, but a dark, shadowy figure suddenly rushed out, knocking young Barry to the ground and imprisoning him in a cage of lightning. During the fight, young Barry discovered that his opponent had the same scars as him. He understood. The dark figure was himself from the future. At this point, worlds began to collide and collapse. In the Speed Force, DC heroes from across the multiverse began to pour in, including the first Superman from 1951, George Reeves, the 1978 Superman, Christopher Reeve, the 1984 Supergirl, Helen Slater, and even a surprising appearance by Nicolas Cage, who was once supposed to play Superman and even did a costume test, but for some strange reason, it never happened. This became a regret in his career. Look at everything that's happening. Looking at the cracks in space-time, Barry understood that their actions were shaking the very order of the universe. However, the Dark Flash insisted on not stopping until his goal was achieved. On the critical day of September 29th, he pushed Barry out of time, allowing his past self to gain power this way. However, this turned Barry into an obstacle, because every time he got close to victory, Barry would go back, which would lead to his mother's death. The Dark Flash saw Barry as a nexus of fate. He launched a fatal attack against him. At this moment, young Barry chose to sacrifice himself, using his body to block the fatal blow. With young Barry's passing, the Dark Flash disappeared, and the shattered timeline gradually returned to stability. Barry returned to the timeline where he placed a can of tomatoes. After saying goodbye to the mother he couldn't acknowledge, he took the can of tomatoes. Just as he was about to put it back on the bottom shelf, he unintentionally looked up and discovered the high-mounted surveillance camera. Returning to his original timeline, Barry attended his father's trial. The surveillance footage that was originally inadmissible as evidence now showed a scene of his father looking up to grab the can of tomatoes. This footage proved his alibi. Barry had cleverly adjusted the position of the shelf. He didn't directly change history. Instead, he led everyone to uncover the truth, clearing his father of the wrongful conviction. In this moment of self-satisfaction, Barry didn't notice that his subtle action had quietly touched the threads of time. When he faced Bruce Wayne again, it was no longer a familiar face before him, but from 1997, George Clooney, wearing the Batsuit. Barry's jaw dropped in shock. In the post-credits scene, Barry helps a dead drunk Aquaman out of a noisy bar. Barry explains the mysteries of the multiverse to him. In the vast cosmos, there are countless versions of Batman, each with their own unique characteristics. In one unexpected timeline, Aquaman had even become a fluffy little dog. However, the completely intoxicated Aquaman stumbled into a foul-smelling puddle, claiming it was his true home. He took off his ring, as symbol of authority, and told Barry to trade it for a few beers. This cliffhanger will be resolved for the audience in the sequel, Aquaman 2. If you are curious about the development of this film's story, remember to follow us. We will provide you with a detailed and engaging analysis.